It is the Establish the Awards show. My name is Adam Levitan, and today we are going to discuss probably my favorite market if we're talking about betting on the NFL. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to do this show this week is because I feel like I'm losing my absolute mind. I feel like I'm missing something in the Comeback Player of the Year award market. If I am not mistaken, Sam Darnold, who is the favorite, the stone cold favorite in this market almost everywhere, is not really eligible for the award. Now, let me clarify. He is eligible. However, over the summer, I tweeted about this. This was June 18th. The Associated Press, who runs these awards, and that is what all the books use for their awards, the Associated Press Awards, they released a statement from AP senior NFL writer Rob Maaddi, who oversees all pro and NFL awards voting. Rob said, the spirit of the AP Comeback Player of the Year award is to honor a player who has demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity by overcoming illness, physical injury, or other circumstances that led him to miss playing time the previous season. That's what voters who vote for the award will be told as their guidance for voting on the award. And the reason this came up is because people were saying, what are these guys coming back from? All these guys who are up for the award, where are they coming back? They're coming back from sucking. So basically what Rob and the AP was trying to say is no longer is the criteria for this award coming back from sucking. You have to be coming back from illness, physical injury, or other circumstances that led you to miss playing time. Now, Mark, if I'm not mistaken, Sam Darnold did not miss any time last year due to any of these things. He missed because the NFL thought that he sucked. That's it. And he is the favorite in this market. Am I crazy here? Am I missing something? Is Sam Darnold coming back from something that I do not remember?
No, I mean, as far as I know, Sam Darnold was just a backup quarterback for the Niners last year behind Brock Purdy. Was not injury induced by any means. So I think there's just probably an inefficiency in the market at this point. People know that Darnold didn't play last year. Obviously, off to a good start. He's one of the top 5 MVP candidates right now, nonetheless. So I think just people haven't necessarily done their research and are voting based on their intuition rather than what the award will actually be graded on this year. So it seems like a pretty big edge to exploit.
Right. They're not voting based on their intuition. They're betting on it, right? That's why the market is like that. And believe me, if this criteria was not released, I would say Sam Darnold deserves to win the award. I would say this would be Sam Darnold's award. But this new criteria changes everything. So he's the favorite. The second favorite, Ryan, is Aaron Rodgers. And I don't want to get into any of this off-field, whatever. I think the media absolutely, positively hates Aaron Rodgers, wants nothing to do with him, and would not vote for him in kind of a Mickey Mouse award like this where they don't have to, right? If Aaron Rodgers went out and blew the doors off and he had to be the MVP, they'll vote for him for MVP. But this award, in your head, you can make it basically anything that you want, even with this new criteria from the AP. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers? Because if he can't win and Sam Darnold can't win, then both the favorites in this market are not going to win, then we have to have some big edges, right, Ryan? So what do you think about, will people vote? Will the voters actually vote for Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I think the emotional component comes into play a lot. Like we talked about this a few years ago with Deshaun Watson. Like they're not going to vote for Deshaun Watson unless they absolutely have to. I think this is a lighter version of that. But on top of that, the Jets are 2-3 through their easier part of the schedule, so they have a mountain to climb from a team success standpoint too. And generally speaking, in this award, you have to have a winning record if you're a quarterback to win. Where Kirk Cousins has a very manageable schedule. I think he's a solid option. And now Joe Burrow would actually be the MVP right now statistically if the Bengals weren't 1-4. But there is a path to climbing back into this because they have the Giants on Sunday night. Cleveland's been atrocious. The Eagles are a beatable team, and the Raiders are a very beatable team. So a 3-1 record over the next few weeks, I could see Joe Burrow making a leap. And the other guy I have my eye on here is the Damar Hamlin situation is so unique, and I have a 100-1 ticket on him, so maybe I'm a little biased here that he belongs in this realm. But his situation's so unique, and I think they made the guidance because they're not very happy that Joe Flacco played 5 games and beat Hamlin last year. So I think he's a little bit in play. And the last tidbit I'll throw in: a running back has not won this award since Garrison Hurst back in, I believe, 2002. So running backs are a cross-off for me.
Okay. Yeah. Let me reset the table here because I like all that stuff that Ryan said. On DraftKings specifically, Sam Darnold is plus 200, Aaron Rodgers is plus 225. I don't think either of those guys can win, right? And those are the two favorites. So I'm really looking for options here. Kirk Cousins is coming back from injury. Joe Burrow is coming back confirmed injury. I think both those guys are in play. Certainly at the price right now, Cousins is plus 250, Burrow is plus 900. I would certainly prefer Burrow there. Hamlin is the one that really piques my interest because, like Ryan said, I think most people wanted him to get it last year. He barely played, only played like a few snaps on defense. This year, he's playing more. You can make a much better case. And listen, like, kid did something incredible. They want to give him an award. That's like kind of what the spirit of this award I feel like is going to come down to. And if people want to say, well, Hamlin's not that good, you know, he's a rotational player, whatever, on the Bills, he's a safety. They can say all that. Kid's story like completely swept the nation, and this would be like the cherry on top to give to him. So I'm sick to my stomach over not having 100 to 1 like Ryan does, but I'm still intrigued at 10 to 1 on Hamlin, but I'm willing to be very aggressive in this market on a lot of guys because, again, I think the two favorites are mispriced. Mark, any more thoughts here on Hamlin or anyone else?
Well, with Hamlin, and we see Kyler Murray with the same odds there at 10 to 1 on DraftKings. Those players both came back last year, so I'm not sure if we have this kind of carryover effect. You know, I do think the DeMar Hamlin storyline is obviously so compelling. I could see how voters would get there, certainly, but Kyler Murray would probably be a cross-off for me as well, since he did return last year from his ACL injury and play a few games. I do like the Burrow comment as well at 9 to 1. I think, you know, he is coming back from multiple injuries too. He's had, you know, several seasons dinged up by injuries. So I think just given that current standing right now and how the Bengals outlook looks moving forward, I think Burrow is probably my favorite bet on the board right now.
Okay. I know Ryan said, and again, I'm trying to be aggressive in this market because I think there's major inefficiency at the top. So I know Ryan said running backs have never won this award. I think the J.K. Dobbins story is unique in that very few guys are coming back, have come back from the knee injury then and Achilles injury that J.K. Dobbins has, right? And I think he's going to wear down. He's not going to be as efficient as he was. We're already starting to see it, right? But he is going to get Joe Alt back at some point. He's going to get Rashawn Slater back at some point. And J.K. Dobbins was absolutely shredding through the first two games when those guys were out there. So I'm still interested in J.K. Dobbins at 10 to 1. Ryan, do you think J.K. Dobbins could be an outlier in this market? I understand it's not been a good market for running backs historically.
Oh, I do agree with you. His story, quote unquote, which I think is actually a big part of this and what they want too.
Yep.
I do think his story is unique. I do think he's in play. It's just a question of how long does he hold up.
Yeah. The other long shot that I have my eye on here, Mark, is Tank Dell. This is 50 to 1 on DraftKings, but you have to shop this stuff. It might, I believe it's like, yeah, something way.
He's
way
80
more.
to 1. He's 80 to 1 on Caesars and 150 to 1 on Bet Rivers. Obviously the limits are pretty harsh on Bet Rivers, but at 150 to 1 with Nico Collins going on IR this week, I think the market probably hasn't caught up to the Tank Dell price at this point. So I like the 80 to 1 on Caesars. 50 to 1 on DraftKings seems relatively in line to me, just given all the quarterbacks at the top. Yeah. But, you know, certainly this is the time, I think, with Nico Collins getting placed on IR.
Yeah, exactly. And like Nico Collins going to miss it 4 games for sure. He could miss more. You know, we don't know for sure. You never know what's going to happen with these hamstring injuries. And that's obviously a big boost to Tank Dell. I am somewhat concerned that Tank Dell is not the same player he was last year. Maybe just like straight up isn't good enough to really break out and have a huge season. But at 80 to 1, at 150 to 1, he has a good story too. I mean, he broke his leg last year blocking and then got shot. I mean, Jesus, like if you want a story, the guy got freaking shot, you know? So, yeah, I think that is a sharp one as well. But I'm going to continue to be super aggressive in this market. Anybody else you guys wanted to mention on comeback player of the year before we move on? All right. Let's tech lord over to the MVP. So I was reading Ryan's article last week, which I recommend that you all do when it comes out every other week. And he had the point in there that the Texans had a game coming up against the Bills. If the Texans could beat that game, you know, CJ could win that game. You know, CJ Stroud's odds are going to get way, way better. Also, in the wake of all of the injuries that the Chiefs have had, I kind of think that Mahomes is susceptible here as the favorite. Mahomes is plus 330 on DraftKings. I think that he's susceptible. His numbers at the end of the year are not going to look that good. They could win 13, 14 games. I'm pretty confident his numbers are not going to look that good. They're not going to look like MVP-esque numbers, Ryan. So I guess we should start there. Do you think Patrick Mahomes can/should win the MVP if he has poor numbers, but the Chiefs, again, win 12, 13, 14 games.
No, I think you need both, unless it's a default situation where Lamar Jackson didn't quite have a traditional MVP caliber season last year. But like you said, I could see Mahomes falling in even below that based on their injuries at wide receiver and so on. However, I do think there's a big game late in the year, Week 16, Texans Chiefs. I have a sneaky feeling that's going to end up deciding who wins the MVP race.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for guys to take because I don't think Mahomes should be the favorite here. I understand that he's kind of favored by default because nobody has run away with it. But it's kind of like last year. I didn't think Lamar had his best year last year at all, but he still won the MVP because no one else really ran away with it. Mark, any thoughts on MVP right now?
Looking at this board right now, we have 4 AFC quarterbacks at the top. So when I'm looking, I've been eyeing the NFC a little bit. At the top, we have Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and CJ Stroud. So I was looking at the NFC here, and the top candidates from that conference are Jaden Daniels and Sam Darnold. And while Jaden Daniels obviously off to an incredible start, I think he's clearly the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year, which we'll get to later. I'm not sure a rookie is going to win MVP in the season. And then Sam Darnold, obviously off to a hot start as well. And I love Kevin O'Connell in that Vikings offense, but I imagine some regression is coming there. And while we love Sam Darnold, I'm not necessarily sure he has enough to win the MVP case. I could see, more of the acclaim going to Justin Jefferson and just the talent he has on that offense. So Jalen Hurts at 30-1 seems relatively strong to me. Again, the Eagles are coming off their bye, so just not a lot of chatter about them the last week or so. And their schedule upcoming is pretty unbelievable. Just really the entire rest of the season. Pretty much Pittsburgh in week 15 is about their only tough on paper defensive matchup. They do play the Ravens as well in Baltimore in week 13, I believe, which could get tricky, but they still have 2 matchups with the Commanders coming up. They have the Giants as well. This Dallas defense has taken a step back, and Jalen Hurts is going to walk into this week 6 matchup with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith expected back and healthy in the lineup. So obviously a lot of the acclaim has gone to Saquon Barkley in this offense, but I do think if this passing game can get going, if Saquon gets injured, you have quite a bit of leverage on Jalen Hurts here. And I just love his weapons in the setup the rest of the season. So he's kind of who I'm eyeing and might dabble on a little bit. Otherwise, I think the top of this board is pretty sharp.
Yeah. Eagles are going to play well on offense, like going forward. I'm really confident in that just based on the talent that they're getting back and the schedule. It's like so soft. Okay. Ryan, I want to throw a crazy idea at you. I know this is a quarterback award. I understand this is a quarterback award. I really do. And I think that the market has finally realized that to the point where we're now starting to get outrageous numbers on non-quarterbacks because everyone understands the quarterback award. I felt like last year there was some momentum for a non-quarterback to win this award. People were all over me. It should be Tyreek Hill, Adam. It should be Christian McCaffrey. And I feel like the voters started to get that. Now, the problem was down the stretch, Tyreek Hill got banged up, wasn't able to finish strong. He couldn't win. McCaffrey got a little bit banged up at the end as well. He couldn't win either. The one that I might be like, to me, if it's close, the quarterback's going to win it. If it's like last year where no quarterback really seizes it, how about a lifetime achievement award for Derrick Henry, who is 150-1 to be the NFL MVP on FanDuel? Again, 150-1. The Ravens could win 14 games. And what if it's Derrick Henry who scores 25 rushing touchdowns? Not Lamar Jackson who scores all the touchdowns. I mean, 25, 26, 27 rushing touchdowns for Derrick Henry. I don't think that's even out of the question. And if he does that and no quarterback runs away with it, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time where this isn't a quarterback award. So, Ryan, is it too crazy on the Derrick Henry stuff?
No, well, as soon as you mentioned that, maybe, you mentioned the idea of a non-quarterback winning, I started looking at the lines on DraftKings. I was like, oh, King Henry's at 100-1. So I think it's in play, especially because the offense is kind of running through him. Love the Lifetime Achievement Award, too. And it's not completely unprecedented. I believe it was 2012, Adrian Peterson won the MVP behind a 2,000-yard rushing season. I think the Vikings were 10-6, so they were a wild card. So I don't think it's out of the question, especially since the road's been paved by no one's really running away from this statistically except Burrow, who's 1-4. So yeah, at 100-1, if you want to let your hair down, I approve that.
150-1 on FanDuel, Ryan, not just 100-1, 150-1. Derrick Henry already has 7 touchdowns in 5 games, and like these voters aren't that sophisticated typically. They're not going to be like, oh, well, his role in the pass game, he loses. They're not getting into that. They're like,
No.
they won 14 games. He scored 27 touchdowns. Like, he should at least be in play. So that's my long shot at MVP. All right. Let's keep it moving to offensive rookie of the year. And man, as we sit here right now ahead of week 6, it is really hard not to see Jaden Daniels winning this award. I mean, he has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The Commanders are 4-1. They have an awful roster outside of him. I mean, you can make a case he's the most valuable player in the entire league. Forget about just the rookie of the year. Strange thing happens, though, across the course of a whole season. Ryan, what do you think about this market? Again, Jaden Daniels right now is minus 230 on DK. That is way ahead of the second choice, Caleb Williams at plus 300, third choice, Malik Neighbors at plus 475.
Yeah, I mean, through the first 5 games, he is a legit MVP contender. So, usually you don't get minus odds on anyone this early in the year, but it kind of makes sense. But I will give you guys this caveat, and that is the Bears and the Commanders face off in week 8. And just like it was with Josh Allen and Stroud, if the Bears beat the Commanders and Caleb Williams has a big game, that's a way that ground could be made up. To zoom out a little bit, looks like Malik Neighbors might miss this week again, which is,
Yeah.
a disaster because he was in play to win this. I do have one long shot that I would normally like. Brian Thomas is 50-1 still on FanDuel. He should not be 50-1, but my problem there is I do think it's either going to be Williams or Daniels at this point.
Well, yeah. I actually think the Neighbors isn't dead. Maybe I'm crazy, but hopefully he gets over this concussion thing and he's back for week 7. He goes out and catches 120 balls in 14 games or something like that. It's not that crazy. I still think he's in play, but you would need an injury or Jaden Daniels to just completely fall off. Mark, what do you think about offensive rookie of the year right now?
I agree with Ryan. It's hard to see Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams not winning this award at this point. So I was looking at some long shots here. Brian Thomas Jr. at 50-1 also seemed long to me. He has more receiving yards and the same amount of touchdowns as Malik Neighbors. Obviously, Neighbors missed a week, but as Ryan mentioned, it looks like he's unlikely to play or potentially will not play in week 6 as well. Brock Bowers is also 60-1 at FanDuel, which caught my eye. He leads all tight ends in receiving yards at this point. He's 16th in the whole NFL in receiving yards as well. He's third among rookies in receiving yards, just behind Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. So, if Devontae Adams does get moved, obviously the Raiders are just a mess as an organization, but maybe Brock Bowers just has an insane enough season where he can kind of lift them up a little bit. But again, it's still hard to envision him beating the quarterbacks unless there's an injury there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think Caleb has been that good. It's not Caleb that's the concern for me on these long shots. It's Jaden Daniels. Like, if Jaden Daniels stays healthy, he's going to be really, really hard to beat. I will say that Malik Neighbors is plus 475 on DraftKings. He's 7-1 on a bunch of other books. And if he misses this week, I bet he gets down to like 8 or 9-1. At that point, I might nibble back in on Malik Neighbors there if he can get down to 9-1. And maybe if he misses this game, maybe even lower. Maybe we'll get a 10-1 or something like that on Malik Neighbors. Let's go to offensive player of the year. Derrick Henry is the favorite there at 3-1. Saquon is at plus 450. This is always a really hard market for me. I feel like, Ryan, it's kind of turned into the best fantasy player that's not a quarterback, right? Like, it's like kind of like a fantasy award. It's like whoever the number one fantasy player is that's not a quarterback kind of wins this award. So you get Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, J. Jeff, Jamar Chase. All guys we're obviously very familiar with. Ryan, what do you think about OPOY right now?
Yeah, 5 years ago, I didn't even officially track this race because one year, Drew Brees goes 7-9, but Matt Ryan wins the MVP, but Drew Brees outperformed him, so he gets it. Sometimes the MVP double dipped. It was all over the road. The last it's 4 or 5 years, it's been a skill player, so that's how I treat it. Like you said with Derrick Henry, he makes sense as the favorite. I don't want to bet on anyone at plus 300 with, 2/3 of a season left. Jamar Chase is there, but again, team success matters in this race too. You don't have to win the conference like you do with the MVP, but you do usually have to have a winning record, so that's a concern there. And I've actually been below consensus on CeeDee Lamb all year because Dallas has nothing around him, so teams can over game plan for him. But I do think him sliding to 16-1, especially with the Lions on deck, is kind of semi-interesting. And the other guy that I have here is Amon-Ra St. Brown. At least has a shot to lead the league in receptions, and he's on a competitive team, the Lions. So those are guys I have my eye on at this point.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of thoughts here, Mark. My main thought was like, I think that Saquon Barkley is going to continue to have just an absolutely outrageous season, but he's plus 450. You know, I'm not going to bet Saquon Barkley there at plus 450. Mark, any thoughts on OPOY?
I actually did get really excited about CD Lamb. He is 22 to 1 on FanDuel. So I did bet that. Ryan mentioned 16 to 1 can go over to FanDuel, get a little better price there. And just looking at the closing schedule for the Cowboys, again, a lot of the stuff is narrative based, how these players finish the season. And from week 12 on, the Dallas Cowboys get the Commanders, the Giants, the Bengals, Panthers, Buccaneers, Eagles, and the Commanders again. I mean, that's just an unbelievable setup for the passing game there for Dallas. As Ryan mentioned, defenses have been able to key on CeeDee Lamb a bit early. He only has like a 21% target share on the season. I expect that to creep up closer to 30% as we get along the way. And he mentioned the Lions matchup as well this week. I do think CeeDee Lamb, who we saw go nuts against the Lions in week 17 last year, could potentially replicate that. So I think now is a solid time to buy in on CeeDee Lamb. I will mention Drake London at 100 to 1 on FanDuel as well. That's a pretty good price for me. I bet it at 60 to 1 entering the season. So 100 to 1. Obviously, I like coming off, that big reception and yardage game on prime time. We've seen this Falcons offense have a 7% pass rate over expectation and plus 3% the last 2 weeks. That would be top 5 in the NFL if that holds. So I think this Falcons offense is going to be on the up and up, and Drake London and Kirk Cousins feel like they're finding their groove a little bit. So 100 to 1 felt a little long to me.
Yeah, I mean, and 50 to 1 on DraftKings just reiterates my point why this is my favorite. This is my favorite market in the NFL. In no other NFL market in the world will you find a guy 50 to 1 on one site and 100 to 1 another. It just doesn't exist. And along those lines, I will throw Tyreek Hill 60 to 1 on FanDuel in the mix. Would not take the 35 to 1 on DraftKings. But if you think Tua Tagovailoa comes back, and maybe I don't know, Ryan, maybe Tyreek has missed too much here with the Tua stuff. Maybe it's going to be too late. But if Tua comes back in week 8 or week 9 and Tyreek starts going completely berserk again, maybe there's some hope there at 60 to 1. I mean, Tyreek was the stone cold favorite, or one of the stone cold favorites in this market coming into the season, but it's probably too late now that I think about it. I don't know, man. What do you think about Tyreek?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to surge and probably make the playoffs for that to happen. But if there's one guy that can do it, it's him. And, Mark alluded to this. What happens now is going to be forgotten by awards voters in 2 months for the most part. So what happens late matters most, especially in what I imagine will be the next market we talk about.
Yep. All right. Let's keep it moving here to, let's go to defensive player of the year real quick. I don't have many takes here. Aiden Hutchinson is indeed the favorite at plus 250. TJ Watt plus 350. Max Crosby 9 to 1. Ryan, any thoughts on defensive player of the year?
So defensive player of the year is essentially the same as the MVP, but it's pass rushers for the most part on contending teams. So we can throw Max Crosby out. Dexter Lawrence has a very narrow path to the Giants making the playoffs, but we can pretty much throw him out. Another thing I'll throw out here too is a couple years ago I got Xavier Howard and Diggs' brother. I forget his name, first name.
Trayvon, yeah.
And the 2 years where they had 10 interceptions and both of them fell short. So McKinney's interesting. He's not bettable at this race because pass rushers usually went out. So I'm going to cross him off at 10 to 1 with Hutchinson. Hutchinson's a bit like Watt, where if Hutchinson gets hurt, the Lions literally turn into a bottom 5 defense. So my concern there in general is you don't have to be part of the best defense in the league, but a pass rusher on a contending team where the defense is 20th, that I don't think he's going to get there if that ends up being the case. So I don't really have like a long shot that I like in this race, though, unfortunately.
Some of the guys in our props Discord, shout out to them, took Patrick Surtain like 100 to 1, 150 to 1, something like that. He's down to 25 to 1 now. Ryan talked about how rare it is for defensive backs to win this award. Patrick Surtain has the reputation, though. He has the reputation of a guy who is like the best cover corner in the league. And this year, he already has 2 interceptions. I believe he took one back for a touchdown. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he had that 100-yard touchdown last week against the Raiders.
So I'm not going to take him at 25 to 1, I don't think, but maybe he's live. Ryan, what do you think about Surtain as an outlier for a defensive back?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Denver's defense is probably the most surprising unit in the league. And like you said, he does have the reputation. And when Stephen Gilmore won this award, I think he's the last corner that won it. Defensive touchdowns actually matter in this. So he has the right foundation. My concern is Denver going to make the playoffs in the AFC? I have my doubts about that.
For sure. Mark, anything on DPOY before we move on?
Yeah, I was looking at Chris Jones a little bit just because the Chiefs defense has been so elite early on. And now with Aaron Donald retired, he's, just lauded as the best defensive tackle in the NFL. The sack numbers haven't quite been there so far. I mean, he has 3 sacks, so not crazy, but the leaders are up closer to 6 and 6.5. But just given, how dominant the Chiefs defense has been, the offense hasn't been amazing. I could see, if his sack numbers get up there, obviously he's going to take the offensive line attention for the Chiefs here. So he's 12-1 on DraftKings, 10-1 on other sites. The Chiefs are in a bye this week, so I kind of want to wait there, and hopefully that price goes up on Chris Jones. He kind of caught my eye, and then the Texans are a team I've wanted to bet into in some way. It's really hard because I think their defensive talent kind of eats into one another, but they do have Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter both at like 40-1, 35-1. Danico Autry is coming back again there. So, it could be spread out production, but the Texans are a team I'm trying to bet into a little bit just because I do think they're one of the favorites in the AFC. It's just hard to pinpoint exactly where I want to go there.
Okay. Last market to talk about today is the coach of the year market. This one every year, man. I mean, me and Ryan talk about this every year. Every year I'm like, I have the nuts. I have it. I have it. And then all it comes down to is like the last like 3 weeks of the season, you have a guy who goes from freaking 25-1 to the favorite every year. So I took Matt Eberflus before the year at 20-1. I thought that was a print fest. Now this guy's 35-1. I've lost so much money in this market. I feel like I don't even want to take anything until last month. Ryan, what do you think about coach of the year right now? Kevin O'Connell plus 160 is the favorite. Dan Quinn plus 275 is the second favorite. And then a bunch of guys 10-1 or worse.
Yeah, from a macro sense, I usually bet on one guy. I bet on Eberflus, and then I bet on him again at longer odds because the Bears have a nice schedule stretch coming. But I bet on one guy early that's a long shot, and then I get involved in the last month because of all the races, this one changes the most late. Like you said, I remember Belichick a few years ago. He was 8-1 one week, then they lost. He was 40-1, and then he was 20-1 the next week. It's just, and we're talking about Belichick, I mean, so as it is now, I think it's a 3-headed race. I'm going to say 3.5-headed race. I do think Kevin O'Connell makes sense as the favorite, although I do think Brian Flores has actually had more of an impact than O'Connell has himself. Dan Quinn, I mean, I don't want to cross him off, but Jaden Daniels is going to get most of the credit for the team's success, as he should. But Dan Quinn turned one of the league's worst defenses into a pretty solid unit already in the first 5 weeks, so he belongs there. Again, we just talked about this with Surtain. I don't think Denver's success lasts, but I know if I had a vote, I would vote for Sean Payton because they stole a game for the Jets based almost entirely off coaching, and this team has no business being 3-2. And I do think Eberflus still has a path, but again, if Caleb Williams probably needs to struggle a bit down the stretch while the Bears make the playoffs for that to happen.
Yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell really deserves it. And I understand Brian Flores had a huge impact, but we're talking about Sam Darnold, who was left for dead by the entire NFL. He didn't have Hawkinson. Addison's been banged up, and they're still out there. They're undefeated. I think Kevin O'Connell deserves it right now. All it would take, though, is a 3-game losing streak for this entire market to get flipped on its entire head. So I'm interested in long shots, I guess, here. But yeah, Mark, any more coach of the year thoughts?
Jim Harbaugh was the only one that stuck out to me at this point. They get Denver this week, so I think it kind of hinges on if the Chargers can beat Denver this upcoming week. But just with how shaky of an organization the Chargers were under Brandon Staley, constantly underperforming, you bring in Jim Harbaugh. Right now they're 2-2, but if they end up making the wild card, which they're currently in the 7th seed right now in the AFC, I think the middle of the AFC is pretty ripe for the taking for some of these teams. If he can get the Chargers there with, a pretty lackluster offense, obviously you have Justin Herbert, but really limited weapons there offensively. The defense has taken a step forward here early. So Harbaugh's 17-1 at FanDuel. That seemed okay to me. Their last 3 games of the season are against the Broncos, which could be, a big swing game there, at the Patriots and at the Raiders. So those are 3 pretty winnable games coming down the stretch. And if the Chargers get into like the 5th or 6th seed in the AFC, I could see voters clinging on to Jim Harbaugh, the ultimate football guy. He's an easy guy to root for and to vote for, I think. So he's who stuck out to me, but I certainly think the favorites are appropriate at this point.
Yeah. One mega long shot I wanted to mention just along the lines with the Tua stuff. Mike McDaniel's 50-1 on DraftKings. I wouldn't take that. 200-1 on FanDuel is Mike McDaniel. I'm biased because I love him. I think he's hilarious and super sharp. But if Tua gets back and they make the playoffs, maybe you can make a case like Mike McDaniel did some great job, and it's really thin, but 200 to 1. I mean, my God, how bad can it be?
If we want to dive into the hundreds, 100 long odds, I will toss out Zach Allen at Defensive Player of the Year. We kind of he's a lineman for the Broncos, and we kind of hit on that. Surtain. If the defense does continue to be strong, it's probably going to Surtain there. But Zach Allen is 300 to 1 on FanDuel right now. He's second in the NFL in QB hits behind only Aiden Hutchinson. Also has 3 sacks. So when we look at kind of a pass rusher on an elite defense, Zach Allen popped out. I just don't think he should be 300 to 1. I didn't really even know who he was coming into the week. I'm sure a lot of people don't out there as well. So it's certainly a long shot at 300 to 1. But hey, 300 to 1, gotta toss it out there.
Yes, exactly. All right, this was fun. We should do this more often. This is really NFL markets have gotten so tight. The one place where it hasn't gotten tight is the awards market. Like, my God, just they have favorites who aren't even eligible for the award. All right. Ryan, tell the people where they can find you and where they can find your work.
I'm on Ryan Reynolds NFL on the X machine. I've been actually using Twitter for the first time this year, so you might find some useful stuff on there.
Yes, Ryan is doing threads. He's a thread boy now. Ryan is a thread boy. I know he's thrilled about it. Mark, tell the people where they can find you.
I'm at Mark Dank on Twitter. Getting into the thread treats a little bit, but yeah, Ryan's work there has been great. I've been reading those weekly. It's definitely some great info, so be sure to check those out.
All right, yes, be sure you're following these guys for sure. For Ryan, for Mark, producer Ryan, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.